All right, the 2022 NFL Combine is very, very soon. It should be days away.
A week from now, potentially.
And we wanted to give you a watch list, if you will, of players that we are watching at the Combine for dynasty purposes. We think that it's either massive for their draft capital or for where they go in rookie drafts or for how we value them in dynasty. So you can see there's a list on the screen here. This is a list of 12 guys that we will have our eyes on.
Correct.
I want to talk about George Pickens. He was my number one guy that I want to see at the Combine. We've said this over and over in different videos about him, but the ACL tear at the beginning of 2021, at the beginning of that season, was so hurtful for his draft capital. And we've said it time and time again, but I truly believe if he didn't tear his ACL, we're talking about George Pickens and Treylon Burks for the 101. That is a conversation that we're having, and everyone on the internet is making that video. Is it Burks or is it Pickens? Like that's the type of talent that he is. So I really want to see his 40. I want to see his 40-yard dash. You know, can he still run at his best after the ACL? Also want to see the vertical and broad jump. Okay, that's not everything. It's not everything for an athlete, but it does show a good sign of where they are in their lower body. There's still explosiveness in their lower body? Can he still jump with the best of them? And last thing I want to see is just a general sense of comfort for George Pickens. Like,
if he's comfortable.
Does he look relaxed?
Yeah.
Is he loving it? Is he in his head? Does he look rigid? Does he interview well? Right? Because there have been some disciplinary issues that we have heard about from the Georgia camp. So for me, the Combine means more to George Pickens than any other player. It means everything for him, for his draft capital. If he goes out there and he kills it, we could see him going as the second wide receiver off the board. That's how high he could go.
Yeah, no
Maybe
doubt.
even the first. Like probably not the first, but he could be second or third wide receiver off the board. If he struggles heavily, however, I mean, he could be 7th, 8th, 9th guy. Maybe he's a third round player instead of a first round guy. So George Pickens was the one that I looked at the list and said, that's who I want to watch more than anyone. Badake, is there a player on the list for you that you felt that way about?
Yeah, look, there's a bunch of players. One guy that stood out to me was Christian Watson, a guy that I love. And, you know, we just did a draft profile on him. And if you I followed his journey late and I fell in love with him. You know, obviously all the hype from the Senior Bowl. I did my research. This guy is a guy that can, in my opinion, can improve his draft capital going into this NFL Combine.
Definitely.
Great size. He's a big wide receiver. Crazy speed for a 6'5" guy, and he can be used anywhere on the field. And what's crazy about this is that he is a guy that we've seen in a short time improve. Okay, if you look at his film and you say, look, I can see how he can do this, but he needs to improve on, you know, catching the ball, better route running, you know, getting off the line as a wide receiver. And we saw that in the Senior Bowl. And, you know, let's take that with a grain of salt because the Senior Bowl is a little bit different. But we saw the improvement. Crisper route running, less drops, better off the line, better blocking. You know, all these things that he needed to prove on during the season, he did in the Senior Bowl. And if he has that massive jump in the Senior Bowl, imagine what he can do in the NFL Combine. Obviously, the drills are different, so his 40-yard is going to be massive, okay? But for me, it's going to be all these agility things, you know, these route running drills that they need to do, you know, those things, getting off the line, drills, you know, lateral movement, everything that the wide receivers camp and drills are going to be entailed for. I think Christian Watson is going to it's going to be massive for him because if he does, you know, I've seen him multiple places saying, you know what, he's going in the 4th, 5th, which I think he's going in the early 3rd, potentially low 2nd, if he continues to show that he is improving in the NFL Combine. So I really like this guy, and I think he could be an X wide receiver in the NFL if in the right situation.
We just released a video on him. You know, funny enough, I have him higher in my rankings. He graded out higher for me, but you're higher on him.
I am high.
Have a conversation.
Exactly.
I think there's a lot that he needs to work on. The thing is, I think he's going to kill it in the Combine. Like athletically, the intangibles are there. So I do think he's going to kill it. I just think that the body of work might hold him back as a draft capital. But
one thing right before you move on, another thought process I had is like, you know what? Let him sit behind someone like a Keenan Allen, a D-Hop, a Devontae Adams for a year. then let him say, you know what, we're passing the torch to you. Let's see if you can do this. Can you be that number one guy? And I think he has a potential to be a number one. Maybe not as talented or as big as Keenan, D-Hop, or Adams, but maybe he can be half of that. And that's good enough, I think.
I just want to throw a quick shout out to everyone who supports us over on Patreon. Okay, whether you're in a league, you just want the extra content, you want the rookie profiles, you want the unlimited advice. Shout out to you guys. Thank you for supporting the show. Now back to the content. All right, Wan'Dale Robinson was another name that really stood out to me. We're all excited about Wan'Dale. I mean, hopefully we're not just watching his highlights. We're watching full games because you can see the good and the bad instead of those highlights. But to me, what's the measurements going to be on Wan'Dale? I mean, every site is a different measurement. Some 100%. Have him as tall as 5'11". He's not 5'11", I promise you that. You can just see that on film. Other sites have him as small as 5'6", 5'7". So yeah, I do think that's going to matter for NFL GMs. Doubt. I do think it will matter. If he's 5'11", if he truly is, he's not. But if he is, that's going to help his draft stock significantly. So this is something that he can't really control, but we will finally get an answer to this question of how tall is he really? Also, if he has a bigger build, like if he weighs in, let's say, 200 pounds or something, I think that could help his capital as well because yeah, he might not be the tallest, but he's got the lower body strength to still be something in the NFL. Yeah. Obviously, the 40-yard dash is going to be massive for him because something I've always said, he reminds me of Tyreek Hill in the open field, but he doesn't have anywhere near the speed that Tyreek does, right? Short area explosiveness, twitchy. He's got all of that, but doesn't necessarily have that long range speed. So I really want to see his 40 time. Yeah. For me, the 40 is going to be crucial. The 40 and the measurements will be crucial. That will either help him be an early second round pick, or it will hurt him maybe projecting into the late second, early third. So he was another person that really stood out for me. By the way, I wanted to talk about Zaquandre White. Okay. Because I fell in love with Zaquandre White last week.
You should have seen it, bro. You need to see Zaquandre White. He is the best guy. Like he was like, he wasn't saying that, but he was excited.
My quote was, he is special. Okay. And by the way, I almost said Quantext. Little context on Zaquandre White. By the way, I don't think he got invited. I'm so upset at the NFL. He didn't get invited to the combine. Bro. So I wanted to cover him, but I just wanted to quickly talk about him. He was a highly scouted prospect out of high school. He signed with Florida State. Okay. Mm-hmm. At Florida State, he was beaten out by Cam Akers and played linebacker. Then he left Florida State to go to JUCO for a year. Reasons we don't fully know. Okay. Was it the fact that he wanted to play running back? He wanted to prove himself as a running back. He didn't want to play linebacker. Were there disciplinary issues? I don't really know, to be honest. But then after that 1 year at JUCO playing running back, he transferred to South Carolina in 2020. Then he was a part of rotation this last year in 2021 with Kevin Harris, I believe is his name. And then he earned the lion's shares of the opportunity halfway through the season. He is a special player. Okay. The stats are not impressive, but the intangibles are there. Some of the things that you see on film is jaw dropping. Okay. The lateral quickness is different. The one cuts are different. My guy runs through a defense like hot knife through butter. Okay, I really want to see him, but unfortunately, I don't think he's going to be there. Is there anyone else on this list that you're interested in?
Yeah, look, one guy that we are kind of off on as a channel, which maybe this is more of a, hey, we need to solidify our thought process, but the guy is Drake London. Okay, there's no doubt about it that
I feel pretty solid where I am with him.
Yeah, well, maybe it's for me. Okay. There's a lot of people in the fantasy community ranking him as a number one wide receiver. I don't see that right now. I see why he can be that. 6'5", he's massive. The workload that he did in college behind Amon-Ra, behind Michael Pittman. He came in young at age 17, was already producing. He has the talent. Okay, for me, is that top speed separation. Does he have that? Does he have the enough? Is his height and strength going to be enough for someone like a Jalen Ramsey to really bully him? Or can he get away from Jalen? Okay, so for me, I want to see that 40 time. Is he going to be under a 4.5? If he's under a 4.5, then I think that's pretty average of where a 4.5 is. I think Calvin Johnson ran like a 4.45, something like that, for maybe a 4.5. So if he can run under a 4.5, I'm a little bit impressed, okay? Because that top end speed is going to be a little bit different as he's going against defenders, okay? And that's the thing with big guys. And another thing is those agility and fluidness, the fluidness drills, I guess you can say, how he can turn. Because at the moment when I looked at his film, he looked really stiff when he didn't feel like he didn't have the crisp route running. And I want to see if did he improve that over, during the offseason leading up to the combine? Does he feel like he could be a guy that can, obviously he can be put in the middle of the field according to college, but can he be put in the middle of the field in the NFL? Because they're going to change. All these things that happen are going to change. Is he just going to be a one-dimensional wide receiver where you're just going to put him on the outside? All right, London, go up and get it. I want a guy that can be versatile and that can be put everywhere, and hopefully – if he improves those route runnings, then I think he can improve his draft capital even more. Even though we know he's going to go in the first, I think those little things can really help him be the first wide receiver off the board over Treylon Burks, over Jameson Williams, over George Pickens, probably, if George Pickens has a better draft combine or NFL combine.
We'll see. Yeah. But it's definitely in conversation. The last guy that on the list that this is another player that I fell in love with. Zaquandre Wright, I love, but Tyler Badake. I want to see, obviously, undersized player, has proven he can handle workload, but I still think that he needs to stand out in these drills in order to solidify draft capital. I said this before when I talked about him. He's not guaranteed to get drafted. Guys who are 5'8", 5'7", and they're running backs, think of Jarrett Patterson last year. We all loved what he brought, but he still didn't get drafted. So ideally, you do want to get drafted, right? So I think it's going to be really big for Tyler Badake. Is there any other player before we in the video here that you wanted to talk about?
Last guy for me is Jerome Ford, a guy that has seen a lot of criticism because he is an undersized back. Okay, he is 5'11", but he's a big bulldozer guy. He's 220, and
that's what we need to see as well. By the way, because people have said he's only 200.
Jerome
People
Ford.
have said that about Jerome Ford. They're like, he's not 220.
I haven't heard that.
So we will find out at Combine with his
if he is 220, because that can either he can be a role player or he can be a workload running back. And the first person I thought of, which I think is a perfect comp, now thinking about it, is a Mark Ingram. I think he has the build and speed, maybe faster of Mark Ingram, but he runs hard and fast. And he punches through the holes, kind of like when Mark gets in space, he's just gone. And even though he was older, I guess in our time. But look, for me, what's the weight going to be like? What's the 40 time going to be like? And can he handle that workload? Maybe we can't see that in the combine, but if he can improve, improve
if he can
anything,
at least put up good numbers at the combine,
and he's also pass catching back. Another thing that a lot of people said, he's not the best passing back. So if he can improve that in those drills as well, then I think Jerome Ford can definitely shoot up his draft capital moving in after the combine.
I like it. All right, the combine is here soon. We were worried that there was going to be a holdout, but I'm pretty sure we just got a report literally right now.
Yes.
That the league announces changes to its COVID-19 protocols for the scouting combine. So all those players that decided to take a stand, it worked out for them. So we will have a combine.
That's what you want.
Let us know. Is there a player in particular that you are watching at the combine? Comment down below.
Yo, what's good? Thanks for watching. We got a lot more videos.
A lot more.
If you want more videos,
watch it.
You can also subscribe
right now
if you want to.
You need to.
And lastly, don't forget that you can sign up to support the show and get exclusive content by going to patreon.com/FantasyLandFam.